රට නගන ජන පෞර.
Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News here on TV1. For the News First team, I'm Naveksha Gunasekar. Let's start off by taking a look at your headlines.
Duration of power cuts reduced to 4 hours. Are these power cuts imposed disregarding the orders of President? Retired Major General MRWD Zoiza takes over as new chairman of Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals. Opposition question Cabra's economic management policies. Ukraine seeks assistance from Britain.
In your top story this afternoon, a confusion has arisen after the central bank decided to allow greater flexibility in the exchange rate. Now, this has largely impacted the worker remittances to the country.
The central bank announced on Monday that it would allow flexible exchange rate determination and that the US dollar would not exceed 230 rupees. As of today, the selling price of a dollar is 230 rupees. Meanwhile, during the cabinet media briefing yesterday, the government stated that the cabinet has decided to provide an incentive of 38 rupees per US dollar for the remittances of migrant workers to Sri Lanka, compared to 10 rupees declared in the past. However, it was revealed at the media briefing that the cabinet was not aware of the central bank's decision on exchange rates at the time of making this decision. The central bank had not reached this decision when the cabinet took this decision. The governor of the central bank will give you an explanation on this tomorrow. However, in a letter addressed to the chief executive officers of all licensed commercial banks, the governor has informed that the central bank will discontinue the incentive of 10 rupees offered on the conversion of workers' remittances and on the conversion of foreign currency notes held in hand. The letter notes that the recent decision of the government to provide a new incentive to expatriate workers who convert remittances will be clarified by the government in due course. As mentioned by the cabinet spokesperson yesterday, the governor of the central bank has not yet convened a press conference to explain the matter.
The long queues to purchase essential items were seen today as well.
Farmers, bus drivers, school transport service providers, office transport providers and lorry drivers were made to spend their day at filling stations today as well. Long queues were reported since last night in certain areas. Filling stations in Hinguragoda town did not have sufficient stocks of diesel to give people. However, the people stayed in queues since last night with the expectation of purchasing fuel.
බලේ දිනවල මොලේ නැහැ මොලේ දිනවල බලේ නැහැ. අපි සිස්ටම් එක චේන්ජ් කරන්න ඡන්දේ දුන්නා නම් මේක තමයි චේන්ජ් එක. ඉතින් හැමදාම පොලිමේ තමයි ඉන්න වෙන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ දවල්ට වැඩ කරන්න රාට පොලිමේ ඉන්න ඕනේ.
The queue seen at the filling station in Dehiyattakandiya continued for the 9th day today. Consumers claim 6,600 litres a day does not meet the demand. Our correspondent noted that the stocks of vegetable received at the economic centre in Cap Petipula has reduced drastically owing to the fuel crisis.
A protest was staged by the Samagi Jana Balawegaya in Mahaweva last night, demanding solution to a number of issues, including the fuel crisis, the power crisis and the rising cost of living. Protesters marched carrying torches and staged the protest in the centre of the Mahaweva town. A large number of women engaged in fishing and residents of the area joined the protest. We are coming to Colombo on the 15th. Be ready to give answers. If you can't run the country, just go home.
අද වෙනකොට මිනිසුන්ව කන්න නැහැ බොන්න නැහැ මොනවාද තියෙන්නේ කියලා කියන්න ලේසි තියෙන්නේ නැති ටික කියනවට වඩා
Economic specialist of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Dr. Harsha De Silva, Iran Vikramaratne and Kabir Hashim engaged in a discussion with the central bank governor Ajit Niwad Cabral today.
Today we went to meet the governor of the central bank. We conducted a professional level discussion. It was not political discussion. We made him and the officials aware of the issues faced by the people. They accepted that there is a problematic situation. What we understand is this is a short-term issue. They did not have the idea of getting the assistance from IMF or any foreign organizations on debt restructuring. What they are expecting is they have requested for a loan from China and from some other places as well. They are in the view through this loans they expect to solve this issue for a short time and face the future. There was a due of $500 million to India. This was earlier due in mid-January and then moved to mid-March after they visited last night. However, there was another $400 million added in January and February. That was due to be paid this week. So the total due was $900 million. Even though they did not openly admit, we believe they don't have funds. We clearly asked if there is 1.5 billion worth yuans in USDs among the reserves. They accepted it. So I believe they don't have any more than 300 to 400 USD. Based on a request, India has postponed the due date of the 900 million USD by another 2 months. Had India not moved the due date by 2 months, we could have been in deep trouble. Only because of them, the people are able to carry out their day-to-day activities up to a certain extent. They did speak about printing money. They have reduced it now. They were expecting to reduce it by 500 billion rupees. However, they have reduced it by 70 billion rupees. They accepted that in future the CBSL should manage funds properly.
මේ සතියේ ඉඳලා තව මාස දෙකකට එහෙමනම් ලංකාව කෙලින්ම බංකොලො. ඔවුන් නිසා තමයි අද අත වශයෙන් මේ ජනතාව ජීවත් වෙන්න පුළුවන් තත්ත්වයකට හරි ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන පෙට්‍රෝල් ටික බෙහෙත් ටික ගේන්න. මුදල් අච්චු ගැසීම පිළිබඳව ඔවුන් කිව්වා. ඔවුන් මුදල් අච්චු ගහන එක යම්කිසි ප්‍රමාණයකට අඩු කරලා තියෙනවා. රුපියල් බිලියන 500කින් ඒක අඩු කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙලා තිබුණා. හැබැයි රුපියල් බිලියන 70කින් අඩු කරගත්තා. මොකද ඒ අවශ්‍ය තරමටම කරගන්න බැරි වෙච්ච එක පිළිබඳව හැබැයි ඔවුන් පිළිගත්තා. මෙහෙම ඉස්සරහදී මීට වඩා ඊට මේ විනයානුකූලව මහ බැංකුව මුදල් පාලනය කළ යුතුයි.
In more headline-making news, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka says power cuts will be imposed for 4 hours between 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. today.
Accordingly, for groups A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I and J, the power supply will be disrupted for 2.5 hours between 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. while another 1 hour and 15-minute power cut will be imposed between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. Groups P, Q, R, S, T, U, V and W will experience a power cut for 2 hours between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. and 1 hour power cut between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. The general public was severely inconvenienced due to the 7-hour power cut imposed yesterday. This was the situation when power was disrupted in the Hikkadwa tourism zone. People from Polonnaruwa were also severely inconvenienced by the power cuts. Meanwhile, Speaker Mahinda Apabewardena requested the MPs to use electricity sparingly at the parliamentary premises.
Honourable MPs, I would like to focus your attention to use electricity sparingly, especially within the parliamentary premises. We need to face the situation by switching off unnecessary lights. Practical difficulties might arise at work, however we have to go on. Restaurants and other service providers also might face various difficulties.
කාරුණික අවධානයට විශේෂයෙන් යොමු කිරීමට කැමැත්තෙමි. එලෙසම භෝජනාගාරවලද සේවා සපයනු ලබන වෙනත් අංශවලද මෙම තත්ත්වයේ හේතුවෙන් පාර්ලිමේන්තු සංකීර්ණය තුලදී විවිධ අපහසුතා හෝ ප්‍රමාදයන් නැති වූහොත් ඒවාද අවබෝධ කරගෙන කටයුතු කරමින් මෙම තත්ත්වයට මුහුණ දීමට සහයෝගය ලබා දෙනු ඇතැයි අපේක්ෂා කරමි.
Journalists questioned Minister Namal Rajapaksa as to why power cuts are imposed at present, although the Minister of Power informed that there will not be any power cuts after the 5th of this month.
His Excellency the President, the Prime Minister and the government held discussions with the officials and gave their word, asking them not to disrupt the supply of electricity. Therefore, we must find out as to why there are power cuts still. If it's an act of sabotage, then the law should be enforced. Because if they attend meetings and say there is no need for power cuts as everything required to ensure an uninterrupted electricity supply is already available, that only fuel should be supplied, but go on to disrupt the power supply the next day, then there is clearly a problem there. There's a hidden conspiracy. A strict decision should be taken in this regard. The Ceylon Electricity Board says it is unable to open letters of credit for the ship that has reached the Vanino port in Russia to obtain coal. CEB spokesperson, Additional General Manager Andrew Navamani stated the ship left for Russia to bring 60,000 metric tons of coal from Russia to Sri Lanka. The ship had reached its destination on the Vanino port by yesterday, and coal shipment must be loaded within 5 days. Andrew Navamani said coal company is holding discussions with several commercial banks today in order to obtain funds to open the letters of credit to settle the payment for the coal shipment. He said the remaining coal reserves in the country is only sufficient to last for another month.
The Ceylon Electricity Board says many thermal power plants in the country are running out of fuel stocks. CEB spokesperson Andrew Navamani urged the people to use electricity sparingly. According to Andrew Navamani, the diesel reserves at the Kalanithissa power plant are declining rapidly. 149 megawatts of power is generated to the national grid from the Kalanithissa power plant. The CEB also pointed out that a situation has arisen where the authorities are unable to supply fuel to many power plants, including the Kolonava, Matugama and Tulhiria power plants. However, the Ministry of Energy states that furnace oil will be provided to power plants from tonight. Its Secretary KDR Olga stated that the unloading of fuel from the ship that arrived in Sri Lanka will begin this morning.
Retired Major General MRW de Souza has been appointed as the new chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited. This was after former chairman of the CPSTL, Nalaka Pereira, resigned from his position. Retired Major General MRW de Souza previously served as the chairman of the Land Development Corporation.
In news overseas, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky became the first foreign leader to virtually address the UK's House of Commons.
Zelensky told British lawmakers, quote, "We will not give up and we will not lose," end quote, in a speech that evoked Churchill's stirring, quote-unquote, never surrender speech during the darkest days of World War II.
13 days of the struggle. On day 1 at 4 o'clock, we were attacked by cruise missiles. Everyone woke up. People, children, women, the entire Ukraine. And since then, we have not been sleeping. We have all been fighting for our country with our army.
Earlier this morning, air raid sirens have gone off in several cities in Ukraine, including Kyiv. Air raid sirens were heard in Kyiv, Chernihiv, Lubny, Poltava and Vasilkiv. Alarms signal potential danger from airstrikes and are warning to residents to shelter in bunkers if they are not there already. Some journalists had reported hearing explosions in Kyiv that has not been reported by Ukrainian media. The UN Human Rights Office says at least 474 civilians have been killed in Ukraine since the Russian invasion began. Russian President Vladimir Putin said conscripted troops would not be sent to participate in the military operation in Ukraine.
I would like to emphasize that conscript soldiers do not and will not participate in the military operation, and there will no be additional call out of reserves. The assigned tasks are solved only by professional military personnel. I'm confident that they will reliably ensure security and peace for the people of Russia.
Мужчинам России признаваться в любви к своим женщинам.
Foreign media reports say that the White House unsuccessfully tried to arrange calls between President Joe Biden and the leaders of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. This outreach came as the US was working to build international support for Ukraine and contain a surge in oil prices. This comes against a backdrop where US President Joe Biden banned imports on Russian oil and gas, while Britain says it will phase out Russian energy products by year's end.
As the general public is severely inconvenienced by the power crisis and the fuel crisis, many businesses have closed down owing to the gas crisis in the country.
Many restaurants in Kandy were temporarily closed due to the gas crisis. Merchants say that they had to arrive to this decision because there was no gas available in the Sri Lankan market during the last few days. They further added that the entire food industry will come to a standstill if this crisis persists. These were the queues seen in Ambalangoda today. Although tokens were distributed amongst the customers standing in queues at gas outlets in Kurunegala, it was reported that they hadn't received gas even until 10 a.m.
And that's all the news we have for you today on our lunchtime news bulletin. Thank you for joining. You can always log on to our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk, for all these stories and much more. For the News First team signing off, I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Do take care and stay safe.